Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Conversations, where our topic this week, or this conversations, is going to be about the spring schedule. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves. After a brief introduction, they're going to talk about the courses that they plan on teaching in the spring. After we've all gone and talked about that, then we're going to address the feedback that we received from all of you when I sent out the email about the spring schedule. And so we'll address those concerns or needs, and we will move forward from there with any kind of questions and answers. If you don't know who I am, my name is Adrienne Viramontes, and I am currently the department chair of communication. If I haven't had you in class, then hopefully I will soon, and I will get to meet you face to face. And with that being said, I'm going to turn this over to our newest member of the department, Courtney Powers. Take it away, Courtney. Oh, and if I could ask, yes, I'm going to mute myself now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. My name is Courtney Powers, and I am brand new, just started this fall. I did my undergrad and my master's at Marquette University, and I'm wrapping up my PhD at the University of Texas at Austin in organizational communication and here I am blanking on my own degree, and technology. I'm already getting ahead of myself. As part of the classes that I'm going to be teaching this coming spring, first, I'm going to be teaching 3 sections of public speaking. So that's Speech 105, which is really centered around public and professional communication skills. And what I love about this class is that it teaches students how to communicate professionally, both in person and also in online contexts. The next class I'm going to be teaching is a conflict class. So it's conflict analysis and resolution. This particular class is COM 285, and it's going to be an online class held once a week. So in this class, we're going to talk all about conflict, and we'll do case studies around conflict management. So it'll be a really fun class. I'm excited to teach it. And then the last class I'll be teaching this spring is the internship class. So if you have an internship within the communication field, you're a comm major, feel free to join that class. That's really just about making the best of your internship experience. So we'll have lots of great conversations about utilizing your internship in ways that will benefit your future career development. And I'm looking forward to it. Great to meet everybody. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anjali Joshi-Brecki, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Communication. In the spring, I will be teaching several courses that I'm really excited about. One focuses on the visual aspects of both production and analysis, media analysis, and the other focuses on the sonic aspects of media production and analysis. So in terms of the visual aspects, I'm going to be teaching COM 168 in the spring. Let me just make sure I've got that number right. Yes, 168, which is Introduction to Visual and Digital Communication. And for this class, you're both going to be creating digital visual communication products, as well as learning to analyze and understand visual communication, especially in the digital age, which is a skill that will be useful in whatever career you choose to use. And it'll be helpful in just analyzing and understanding the media environment that we all live in. I'm also going to be teaching COM 258, which is a community-based learning class in podcasting. And for this class, we're going to be partnering with the Wisconsin LatinX History Collective to make oral history podcasts that will be archived at the Wisconsin Historical Society. And so this work will really contribute to a body of knowledge about the Latinx population here in the Racine-Kenosha area. And it will also, and through the process of helping grow this archive, you will learn podcasting skills. You'll learn to take a long interview and cut it down into its sort of necessary storytelling elements and craft a story in a production team. So it's a really exciting course that is sort of near and dear to my heart. So I'm hoping you'll consider that. And then I'm also teaching COM 108, which is Media and Society, which is a great survey course about the different types of media that we use on a daily basis, from television to radio to movies, and looks at sort of how these different media influence and impact our society, and how these media are impacted by our beliefs and the way that our society works. Lastly, I am teaching communication and gender, in which we'll kind of learn about how we perform gender, how we communicate gender, and how gender influences media as well. So we'll be looking at an array of things in that class. So if you're interested in taking that class, I'd also love to have you in there. So thank you very much.
Before we move on, I just want to make this statement that we're still making some late changes to the schedule. And so Anjali's COM 168 is not appearing yet, but we are hoping that it appears in a day or two. Yeah, so I just wanted to make note of that so that people were aware that we are offering it, but it's just not appearing yet. So thank you, Anjali. Okay, I believe Dr. Rasmussen, you are next in line.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Hillary Rasmussen and I am in my 3rd year teaching at Parkside. This coming spring, I will actually only be teaching 2 courses in the final 7 weeks of the semester, as I will be welcoming my first child over the winter. So in that kind of truncated schedule, Adrian was gracious enough to share with me COM 208, which is kind of the follow-up to COM 207. And so in COM 208, students essentially have a chance to develop full-scale research projects in the field of communication studies on the basis of what they learned and developed in COM 207. So it's kind of a culminating experience. And at the end of it, students are able to actually say, here, I actually produced this, which can be really advantageous, entering into professional endeavors or future academic endeavors. It's a pretty cool course, and I'm excited and thankful that Adrian was willing to share that with me, let go of that one. And then the other course that I will be teaching in the spring is in the graduate program. So unfortunately, I will only be present for the one undergraduate offering, but I'm excited to kind of try something new and looking forward to seeing you all there.
And just as an additional note, I'm teaching the 207 right before she takes over the 208, but I will, I don't want to say force myself, but I will be around helping her to grade or telling her what to do, or, little things.
Otherwise being a saintly angel is the, it's what
some people
she
call it that. Some other people call it, a problem, but that's a different story for a different day. And so I'm not worried about that, but thank you very much, Hillary. Next up, Jackie, I think you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Arce. I am an associate professor in the communication department. And I think that's the first time I've actually gotten to say that in an introduction, just promoted from being an assistant professor. So I'm also going to be the new graduate director. So I'm mostly teaching in the graduate program, but I have one undergraduate class, and that is COM 430. It is digital and social media. And it's going to be an all online course. And the way that it's structured is as kind of a survey of all of the topics that I find really interesting about social media. So we look at identity and identity construction online. We look at issues around privacy and surveillance. We talk about the business model of social media platforms and how that affects how they were built, and then also how we interact on those platforms. I update this course every year, so we're looking at really recent content. We're also looking at theorists who are kind of imagining what, how these platforms are affecting us and how we engage with them. And so each week we look at a series of readings and then have a discussion board where you apply what we're learning to some aspect of your own experience online. So you'll do an identity audit and look at how your identity is constructed and see what your peers also, how they're constructing their identities. We'll explore, how you're being affected actually by surveillance online, and look at what social media platforms are tracking about you. You also do an analysis of a celebrity and how they branded themselves online, and we'll pair that with some readings about online branding. So just kind of a sample of what we do in that course. At the end, there's a research project. I have a couple options, and really you can write about any topic that's related. So online course, social media, hope to see you there in the spring.
Thanks, Jackie. That identity audit seems like it'd be fun. I want to take that. Okay, thank you. Somebody who isn't here, she's on sabbatical, is Teresa Castor. Teresa Castor is going, at least on the schedule, she's scheduled to teach sophomore seminar, which is COM 295. And she's also scheduled to teach COM 495, which is senior seminar. And she was scheduled to teach something else that I kind of can't remember. But this is kind of, I don't want to say in flux, but her schedule is being reworked. She also is the internship director for the entire university, so she gets release time for that. And she's also going to be working on a project that she's working on during her sabbatical. And so because of that, that project's progress and other unknown factors, we're, just in case something weird happens, we will be able to make sure that all of the core courses that any major or minor needs, well, I should say major needs, will be offered and taught. And so as students, you really don't have anything to worry about in that from that perspective. Jonathan Shaler is also missing. He's busy teaching class, so he is teaching one section of COM 285, which is a gen ed version that introduces people to either the conflict and analysis and resolution certificate, but also serves as a basic gen ed that you can get credits for in more than one area. He's also teaching 385, which is the second course in the 300 level of the conflict program, and COM 485, which is kind of a special offering because I believe it's anywhere between 6 to 10 students. If any number of those sign up, they will be going to Racine Correctional Facility with Jonathan to perform the work that he does there. I want to say every semester. If you are interested in this course, you should reach out to him via email. He has information for you. I also have information for you as well that he sent to me. And if you have questions or would like to discuss the details of that particular course, we would be happy to do that with you. So I believe, Tinette, have we arrived at you? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, so sorry. I always forget. I guess so. So I am going to just refer to some notes on my screen as I'm talking. So if I'm not looking directly at you, please forgive me. But this spring, I will be teaching COM 255, Writing for Multimedia, which is a CBL designated course. And the course is basically a hands-on multimedia journalism course. So students learn the fundamentals of multimedia writing, editing, and storytelling using audio, video, photography, slideshows, and other formats, including social media. And they also learn about journalism ethics, news judgment, and following a beat. One thing that's exciting about this course is because we're CBL, we have been able to work on the Root magazine. That's the main project we've worked on for the past 3 years. For the past several years, we partnered with the Racine Economic Development Corp. and we focused on small businesses in downtown Racine. But for the first time, we're shifting focus or gears, and we're going to actually be partnering with the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin. And they have agreed to fund us, and we're going to explore water as a social justice issue. So I'm kind of excited. We're going to be working with biology. I think is it Jessica Orlowski is a professor that will be bringing her students on board with us, as well as I can't think of the professor's name. She's over in graphics. I mean, not graphics. She's actually in geography. Forgive me. Her students will be doing mapping for the magazine. So I'm so excited about what this project, the potential for this water issue and what it can accomplish for the area. And you might be wondering why water, but the Root magazine is actually named for the Root River, which runs through Racine and Kenosha counties. And then the second course I'll be teaching, or another course I'll be teaching, is Communication, or COM 363, African Americans and Media. And this class focuses, am I right?
That's in the fall.
Oh, that's in the fall. That's right. Because I don't know why I thought it was the spring. I got a course release. So I'm teaching COM 255 and Speech 105, which I believe Courtney explained very well. So I don't know if I need to say a whole lot about, I don't know that I have anything else to add. I've been teaching this course for quite a while. And thanks to Courtney, we have, I think, stepped into the 21st century. She and I put our heads together and collaborated and came up with some innovative ideas for the course. So, and it's worked well. Like the elevator pitch is something. Courtney had a student, get this, that actually got several job interviews from the career fair. Was it last week? Using the elevator pitch. So,
Woo!
yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, he shared that with the class. So this stuff is real and it works. So I appreciate that. So I don't know what else I can say about Speech 105, but we're learning. Students are definitely engaging with public speaking across a variety of platforms. Well, especially Zoom. We've added a group persuasive speech, which we've never done before. And the students are so excited about that. So they're working with teams, learning more collaboration. It's just making it more practical. So I thank Courtney for that. And I'm excited about teaching public speaking. And I will have a course release because I am the new project manager for the Root magazine. So that's it. That's me in a nutshell. That's
a lot. That sounds excellent.
Thank you.
And last, and hopefully not least, is me. I'm going to teach COM 205, which is oral interpretation. It is completely online. I think of it as an endearing, weird class where I ask you to do very strange things with your voice and reading aloud, and either recording you in terms of just audio or a full video recording. I ask you to read a bunch of things that I provide, so there's no book that's required, and you learn all about the different skill sets, or I shouldn't say skill sets, but skills of pronunciation and enunciation and inflection, and you really using your voice as a kind of communicative tool that really helps to communicate emotion and tone and intent of a text. So that will be offered online completely. I'm also teaching COM 207, which is the first 7 weeks of 207 and 208, where we will be working very hard to create a research proposal. And then the final course that I'm teaching, is COM 363, which is ethnicity in COM, where we will focus on Latina communication. That is a completely online course as well, where I have you learn really about the sort of fundamental and basic differences of a variety of Latin groups that live within the US. Not only do you learn sort of the basics about us, but the differences in terms of how we immigrated to the US, how some of us have been here for a lot longer and didn't need to immigrate to the US. Just some of the nuances of our histories that often go sort of undiscussed in everyday context. So that's what we're offering. I do want to note that Jackie's COM 430 is going to be offered. It at this point is not appearing on the schedule only because we had to get special permission for that course to be offered online. We have to submit paperwork to a committee, and it takes them a little while to evaluate all of the courses that are turned in or offered online. And so we are patiently awaiting that. I know that all of you will start to enroll in courses very soon. And so we are working diligently to make sure that all of our courses that we're offering appear in a timely way so that you don't have to kind of waste time wondering about whether something will be offered or not. But at this point, we're able to offer all of the core courses and some electives. If you find that you're in a minor where you need a specific elective and you did not communicate to Morgan your particular needs, if I'm not going to cover what you need in this next section, then I encourage you to either email me or email Morgan and get a message to us about the things that you're wondering about. So when I sent out the original message to all of the minors and majors, I heard from some of the advisors in the college that I freaked people out. If I freaked you out, I'm really sorry, but this is the kind of nature of basic communication. When we learn stuff, it's important to then tell you what we've learned so that you know. Not everything that we say is like a dire consequence or anything. So I just wanted to let you know that when it was time for you to register for courses and you went and saw that there maybe wasn't as many as there usually are, that you shouldn't worry, that we're always thinking about you. We're always trying to make sure that the things that we can and do offer will not interrupt your pathway to graduation in any way. And if you run into these kinds of obstacles, you really, really need to contact me so we can have a conversation about it. If you don't know me, I'm willing to do a lot of things to make sure that your experience here is seamless as possible. So I, again, encourage you to reach out to me. So based on some of the feedback that Morgan collected regarding the DMAT minor, this is a pretty popular minor. And so a lot of the courses that are needed for that particular minor, and Jackie, please feel free to jump in if I'm saying something wrong or you need to correct me. But 430 is one of the electives within that minor that's on that list. So if you're looking for an elective to satisfy in that realm, we are offering that, and that should be good. Morgan, refresh my memory. What did I say about English 359? Is that going to be offered in the spring?
That will not be offered in the spring.
Right, because it's being offered currently, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if you're wondering about English 59, it has been offered this fall, and I would encourage you, if you're wondering if it's going to be offered again or when, to contact the chair of the English department so you can ask some questions there. Com 350 is currently being offered now in the fall. Anjali Brecky is teaching it. So DMAT people, you're covered for the most part with Com 168 that will appear shortly, and Com 430. If you have other needs that please.
Com 258, the podcasting course that Dr. Brecky is teaching, is also a part of the DMAT program. Excellent.
And so there's actually a pretty decent amount of coverage with that minor. So for all the folks who signed up for that, you should be okay. I did have one person who's a minor, a health comm minor, request a need for health communication. At this point, you're the only one that I've heard of that needs that course. And so if you, I will actually reach out to you and contact you about that, and we can have a conversation about that. some folks mentioned that they needed a 300 level, like COM 315. We had to cancel COM 320, which is privilege and power, only because the folks who taught that, we had to sort of uninvite them to the spring schedule, if you will. But Dr. Brecky's COM 315, gender and communication, will be a viable elective option, not only for the DMAT minor, but almost all the other minors. And as a matter of fact, if you need a 300 elective in any of the minors that we offer, and the 300 levels that we are offering, you don't see them in your required or elective options, I will personally write you an executive action counting that 300 level course toward your minors, so that, again, your experience here is seamless and we won't interrupt your pathway to graduation. Somebody wrote in that they needed COM 295. Feel good, because we are offering COM 295, so that's taken care of. Somebody asked about ART 371, and we did some research and discovered that the art department is offering ART 371. Hey, Megan, or I'm sorry. Hey, Morgan, do you remember the name of that course?
I do not recall the name of the course. However, it will be 100% online for the first time, and it is not on Solar yet, but it will be shortly. There's just a staffing change because I need that class and I am paying close attention.
Well, thank you so much. Wow, that's great. I'm glad people are prepared. Okay, and that's actually all of the feedback that I received from my call out to the students. So does anybody, well, no one's here other than us. Do we have any questions for any, do you have questions, Morgan? Go ahead.
That is digital photography. Thank you.
Oh, all right. So 370, ART 371 is digital photography. It will be offered in the spring. That is one of the electives for the DMAT minor. Am I correct, Jackie? Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to questions. Colleagues, do we have any questions?
I had a question for you.
Excellent.
I mean, it's okay if we ask, right?
It's very okay.
Okay, for your class that you're teaching, it's Latina or
Yes, it's Latina
okay.
communication. This is a topic that needs not be expounded upon, but here I go. I personally am opposed to the word Latinx.
I was just about to ask you about that. I
welcome any and everybody to use it. Actually, I wanted to credit Jackie Arce, because we had a discussion about my emotionally charged response to the Latinx, and the way she looked at me, it made me think about why I was so mad at this word. So thank you, because I went and had some private time and I found out.
But see, I was going to ask you the question, are you going to address that in your class?
Well, I guess, I wasn't planning on it, but okay.
I think you should. Not that you're endorsing it, but people don't understand it. And even if you just, can you share your sentiments about it? Your perspective on it, but just to educate people?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I want to invite Jackie into this, because I think Jackie, can you talk a little bit about why you use this word and what it means? And then I'll chime in.
Okay.
The term Latinx.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I have adopted it just in my vernacular is because it's gender neutral. And I think that I actually need to do some more research, but I think that was sort of the motivation behind it. So for people who are non-binary or, in other ways wouldn't want to identify as either Latino or Latina, it provides kind of a third option. And I also saw in the chat, Dr. Brecky brought up another term, which I think is even newer, that I need to learn more about as well. I don't know if you want to chime in. Latinx.
I've seen like the A and the O put together in the @ sign. So it's like the A and the O together. So it's another like gender. I don't know how you pronounce it though. I've just seen it spelt. So I just thought there's a million ways. So I just thought I'd throw that into the mix. But
Yeah.
yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I have friends who Guatemalan American and Mexican American who have very strong feelings about the Latinx label as well. My friend, who's actually she's from Mexico City. She's not Mexican. Well, she's American because it's all the Americans. Anyways, but she really like prefers Latine because she feels like it's easier to pronounce in Spanish, and she feels like Latinx is hard to pronounce in Spanish, and so she really doesn't like the Latinx, and so she says that the E ending, at least in Mexico, where she's from, has been used in the queer community for a long time instead of the O or the A for the gendered. So she's been just used to using the E ending as sort of a gender neutral ending to previous or like to normally gendered or previously gendered terms. And I also have another friend who really doesn't like the X. I have been in a group of, when I was a graduate student and graduate students of color, and there were several individuals who identified as Latinx who were also indigenous, and they really liked Latinx because they felt like the X was very, at least like in their communities, they felt that the X kind of interrupted the Spanish, which they also saw as a colonizer's language. So they liked that it was like hard to pronounce in Spanish. So I think it's just, there's a lot of people with very strong opinions about it. And so that's just what I've heard from others. I am not Latinx or Latina or Latino or Latino. So but that's just what I've heard from people who do identify that way.
That was a great complex contribution about all of the weird feelings that Latin people have about just that word, but you could sort of throw in a bunch of topics, and we all have sometimes different feelings about this. So I had to figure out why I had such strong feelings about this, because when I said in another meeting, I don't like this word, I want to fight for whatever I want to use, and Jackie looked at me, and I love Jackie, but she looked at me like this. So here's my
I think it's so important for you to fight for the language that you want to use in your course. I'm sorry if I had that response. I don't think it was intentional. And as a white woman, it's none of my business what what people identify as.
But I'm really, I really value that you were like, because clearly you didn't, maybe I clearly hadn't made it clear about how I felt, but that's because I didn't know. And so I went and I thought about it, and I really had to trace back my bodily response to this word. And what I think happens is that the sort of fancy academic people who want to make sure that everybody's included and that everybody feels good and cozy and warm came up. I don't even know who came up with this term, but somebody did. And then they decided for all of us, and I don't mean every single person, but I feel like it's a tacit, an unspoken decision that all Latin people should adopt this word because, they're the smartest people. They're usually not working class. They're very, I see them as kind of high and mighty, and I don't appreciate being sort of expected or informed to submit. I don't like that at all. So when I hear, or when I'm sort of expected to use this word, I feel like a real class conflict that brings up hundreds and hundreds of years of there being different views within the Latin community. And by Latin community, I just mean Latin populations any and everywhere. There's always been a difference in terms of how much you make, how you live, or, like if you're a farmer or if you're not, how you are making manifest your Latin identity. And so for me, Latina, the way that Anjali was saying it with the O surrounding it, that is yet more sort of patriarchal imprisonment of the O surrounding the A. See how tedious this gets? And, we fought so long. Hillary actually has very good knowledge about this, but we fought for a long time to get away from the word Hispanic, which, by the way, totally blurs not only gender, but blurs all identities as well. So in my long sort of history of understanding these words that are flying around, we might as well just go back to Hispanic. Because again, could we not steal the X from Malcolm X? Could we somehow be original? Could we come up with something that, so these are all of my complaints. As a proud working class Latina, I actually identify as Chicana. I'm not gonna go and change all these words so that I can fit in with the in crowd, because I'm too old for that crap and I'm not doing it anymore. So I will happily, Tanette, in my class, explain all of this tedious stuff to people. But I mean, if you want to use this word, if anybody uses the word, I think it's great. And I know you have great intentions, but you have a very distanced and abstract relationship with this word that some of the rest of us don't have the same experience.
So you're saying this word wasn't developed by someone within the community?
I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, because like when we went for Black people, right? We went from Black people to being called African Americans. Actually, it was Jesse Jackson that coined that, because he felt like other groups had connection to a country. And because I know I'm getting into this, but because Black people, most of us are descendants of slaves, we didn't really, we sort of didn't have the association to Africa after so many generations here in the US. So he came up with that. But there was a little flack about it, but people embraced it because it was someone within the community that came up with it. Although Jesse Jackson has been controversial, but the thing is, you're saying this word didn't come from someone like that within the, do I say Latino or Hispanic community? I see, I get lost, like, what do I use? And that's because like we just have Black or African American, and African American, we're okay with using those interchangeably. It's accepted. But now those of us who are outside of the Latin or Latinx, we're like confused. And John and I have had this conversation because, we were like, what does that mean? Where did it come from? So I think maybe your students might be wondering.
I don't know actually where it comes from. I just started to hear people talk about it. And I read an article in the Washington Post where somebody did some research and is able to report that only 3% of highly educated people use this term. And again,
I just put it in the, it's from Pew Research. I put it in the chat. Sorry, continue.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Hillary, do you want to chime in with anything you know about this?
It feels really weird to hand it over to me. Because, I'm Danish. But but I just, when Adrienne contacted me, that she was kind of having sort of I don't know even what you would call it, but just like having sort of an internal struggle about it, not sure how to articulate, or if you should articulate, your feelings. And I just remember hearing, like Anjali said, more than one person kind of saying, God, you know what? It was such an absolute struggle to win Latina, to kind of get to a cultural point where this specific identity was recognized in a way that, these individuals identified with. And so it's like, I guess my only point, and why I encouraged you to kind of push for your perspective, was just that there's a history to the term. And I think that that's kind of the nugget. I think that the folks who find a home with Latinx, there's nothing wrong with finding a home in a term that's inclusive for you and using that term to describe yourself and having it being given a place, a cultural place. And I think there's also nothing wrong with kind of saying, great, fine, you know, Adrian, right? Like speaking as Adrian, you know, as a woman of this identity, you know, just really value the history of Latina and what it signifies personally. So like, I just wanted you to feel like you could voice it. I guess that I was most concerned that you were just gonna kind of not.
And I really appreciate that. And you were just reminded me of two more things that I have experienced with this word that really bothered me. And they're kind of dumb, but you know, sometimes I'm just a little obsessive compulsive. Well, early on when this word was brought out, people who didn't know that it was, I guess, accepted or expected for you to actually say the X, we're using the word LatinX. That bothered me so much. I couldn't stand to hear that word. And so that in that moment, I was like, no, I am not associating myself with that stupid sounding word, right? Because that's how it was performed before people started to get on the track of actually giving voice to the X. And another thing, women have not been in the academy for more than 5 minutes, quite frankly. You know, before, 50 years ago, everybody was male. So I'd like a little personal time with Latina because I am one and because I've worked really, really hard to earn my place in the academy. And I'd like to keep an identifying word that speaks to my experience. So thank you.
I also think there's nothing wrong with a both and situation. I mean, if we can learn anything from the introduction of Latinx into the cultural vernacular, it's that it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be one over the other, superior to the other. I think it can coexist as a cultural discourse, something that's living and dynamic and present.
I agree. And I think the most important thing about this is, and I wrote about this in the book that I recently published, the whole reason that Mexican people exist, and I'll just speak for Mexican people, the whole reason that we exist is because of a conquest. That means that there are multiple cultural and other kinds of influences that make us who we are. We're different. We're supposed to be different. We're not supposed to be the same. And I feel like many of us are afraid to embrace the diversity within diversity. I know a lot of other groups, like, you know, if you think about Irish Americans or Italian Americans, there's diversity there too, but with Latin people, it's really complicated. There are multiple identities within families even, and it's okay if we don't sort of know what to call each other, but it's important to acknowledge that it's really important that we embrace this vast diversity, because that's what I feel like that's our birthright. I don't think that a lot of people embrace that, but that's how I see it. And again, choosing these words is just another example of how absolutely every one of us, no matter if we're working class or not working class, how we experience life and have a viewpoint about it. So this has been wonderful. In our next question.
And Adrian,
yeah,
I think that this is a thread or a theme or argument, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that I think is really useful for all of the students at Parkside. I mean, this sort of notion of like when identities become subsumed under too big of an umbrella, that's how we wind up with, you know, the white student sitting in our class who doesn't think they have a culture, you know? So I think this is such a cool conversation. I wanted to audit your class.
Oh, well, okay. Listen, I have to put together now stuff to address this. Thanks a lot, Tanette. You're a real pal. Thanks. Anyway, so, well, I believe that we've pretty much come at the end of our time. I'm going to end this by saying to the students who are watching this, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, but more importantly, I hope that you know that your spring needs will likely be met. And if they're not, again, please contact me. You know where I live. So let me find my record button, pause.